Now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to VPX7 on the AIRSTAGE Cloud. My name's Ryan O'Grady. I'll be your host today. We've got a few more people signing in. We're just going to give people another minute or two here to get signed in, and then we will get started. While we're waiting for people to sign in, everybody is logged into this in a listen-only mode. If you have questions, there is a question tab in your GoToWebinar menu. If you have a question that you would like to ask, please go ahead and type that, and I'll be monitoring the questions as we go through the presentations. Thank you. All right, for those of you late to coming in, thank you for joining us at VPX7. My name is Ryan O'Grady. I will be your host today to talk about the AIRSTAGE Cloud. For those of you that don't know me, I am the sales manager for AIRSTAGE Cloud. I work for Derek Paul on the sales team, and I support our North America and global operations in the AIRSTAGE Cloud. If you have any questions at any time, please use the question prompt that is in your GoToWebinar meeting menu. That GoToWebinar meeting menu should be on the right side of your page unless you've chosen to minimize it. Be monitoring the questions throughout the presentation, and I will do my best to answer everything. With that, let's go ahead and get started. Sorry, just having one problem here, advancing slides. All right. So let's talk about what we're going to do today with the AIRSTAGE Cloud. We've got a couple of different things we're going to do. Before we get into a deep dive on the AIRSTAGE Cloud, we're going to talk a little bit about what it is and why AIRSTAGE Cloud is important to you. Then we're going to go into a deep dive of AIRSTAGE Cloud. We're going to look at the Service Manager to talk about how you can manage your services remotely through AIRSTAGE Cloud. We're going to talk about a new feature that allows you to do some energy optimization programs, as well as our insights analytics, which allow you to show more information to your building owners than ever before. So when we build AIRSTAGE Cloud, we're building AIRSTAGE Cloud to solve problems. And when you think about AIRSTAGE Cloud, this isn't just a standalone program, although it's a great product to buy for retrofit applications. But AIRSTAGE Cloud is a tool that allows you to get more out of your AIRSTAGE, either split system or VRF system. And the reason for that is when we design AIRSTAGE Cloud, we're designing AIRSTAGE Cloud to try to solve challenges that we see out there in the industry today. And when we look at our industry today, there are a number of very important trends that we're trying to manage. The first is when I go out and talk to distributors and contractors, everybody says, hey, I'd really like to be growing my business, but I just can't find enough people to hire. And we all know, we all read the trade magazines, lack of trained technicians is a major problem right now. So if we want to grow our businesses together and we want to sell more and we want to grow, we have to be able to do more with the staff that we have. the only way we can do more with the staff that we have is if we make that staff more efficient. And AIRSTAGE Cloud is a tool that's going to allow your staff to be more efficient, whether they're the technicians in the field doing the physical installs, whether they're your service people, whether they're your facilities managers. The whole intent of AIRSTAGE Cloud is to make your make your business more efficient. So if currently you can do 10 jobs a month, but you want to grow your business, we need to be able to get you to the point where you can do 13 or 14 jobs a month with the same amount of staffing level that you have. And the only way we can do that is through automation like AIRSTAGE Cloud. Similarly to that, when we do have those people and we have our technicians, we oftentimes find that getting a job started up and commissioned takes multiple trips to a job site. And how great would it be if we didn't have to spend all of our time doing work sitting in a van being stuck in traffic? I hear this from plenty of my contractors and distributors throughout the country, that they spend 50–60% of their time in a truck driving from job site to just go and either close out a job or solve a problem. By using AIRSTAGE Cloud, a lot of those things that used to require a trip to the job site can now be done from the comfort of your office. They can be done from Starbucks. They can be done on an airplane. They can be done any place where you have an internet connection. Okay. And we all know that sometimes we take too many trips to a job site, and the reason that we're taking too many trips to a job site is because we have nuisance service calls. We have end users that may have accidentally knocked their system into offline. We may have forgotten to do an auto restart command when we put the system together. There's lots of simple, easy things that require these lengthy trips to a job site. If we can eliminate and minimize those nuisance service calls, we want to get to the point where when a technician goes to a job site, they're going once and they understand what the problem is. They have the right parts in the truck when they get there, and they know what problem they need to fix and where it is. If we can do that, that makes us more efficient, and that makes all of us look better to our end users and customers. And last but not least, we know that programming and wiring errors are those things on a job site as we're building out a job and we're trying to get that job started up and commissioned, that can ultimately take a long period of time to go and troubleshoot and figure out where that issue is. By using AIRSTAGE Cloud, we can help you pinpoint where those programming and wiring errors are so that we can make your startup more efficient. And if you catch it early enough, you prevent your technicians from repeating the same problem over and over and over on a big job. So those are the challenges that we're trying to solve with AIRSTAGE Cloud. And from that, that gives us our value proposition. So why is AIRSTAGE Cloud important to all of us? All of us being Fujitsu, all of us being our distributors, our contractors, even consulting engineers that are specifying products. Why is this important? Well, it's important because it does these four things. AIRSTAGE Cloud is going to allow you as a contractor to complete more installations per month. So we're going to make you more efficient on every single job that you do. When you go to a job site for service, we want to reduce the number of times you go to the job site, and we want to reduce the amount of time that you're on the job site. And we can only do that if we arm you with the right information at the right time, and we eliminate visits that you don't actually need to go to a job site for. We're going to give contractors tools to sell service contracts. So we spend a lot of time in our business courting and attracting customers. We sell them a product, and then oftentimes we don't see them again for 10 or 15 years. Service contracts is the way that we can stay in touch with our customers. It's a great incremental revenue stream. And AIRSTAGE Cloud, because it's doing the monitoring of the sites for you, allows you as a contractor or a distributor to be able to create this value-added business unit of selling service. And service, HVAC as a service, is one of these things that we consistently see as an increasing trend. And going forward in the next 4 or 5 years, there's going to be more and more HVAC as a service. And you can't do HVAC as a service unless you have AIRSTAGE Cloud as a tool. And last but not least, AIRSTAGE Cloud does more for your end users. We want to take the building, we want to take a super efficient VRF system and make it even more efficient. And the way you do that is with AIRSTAGE Cloud, because AIRSTAGE Cloud allows your end users to save energy costs. And they're going to save energy costs by being able to monitor their energy. They're going to save energy costs by being able to do smart set points and do scheduling. And we'll talk about all of those things as we go on in this presentation. So At the end of the day, AIRSTAGE Cloud is going to help you sell more large projects. And if you look at the key markets right now where AIRSTAGE Cloud is driving a lot of value for us, multi-tenant residential, commercial office, education, and education can be K-12, it can be dormitories, it can be university. We're pretty much across the board on education. Places of worship, especially because you have these, especially down in the South, you have these gigantic buildings. They use a huge amount of energy, but they're only occupied for very small periods of time. So the energy management feature in these large mega churches is a super important value proposition, and it's one of those things that keeps customers coming back to AIRSTAGE Cloud. And also high-end residential, so large homes over 4,000, 5,000 square feet where you're installing VRF in there. It's a great position to be putting in AIRSTAGE Cloud. It's also great for property managers. So if you think about a lot of these high-end homes, we're doing lots of projects in places like Hawaii, Mackinac Island, Aspen, all of these locations that are geographically difficult to get to, but have very high value homes. AIRSTAGE Cloud becomes an insurance policy for those property managers and homeowners because they can keep an eye on that property, even though that property is unoccupied 70, 80% of the time. And if you're a property manager and you have a high-end customer that you're managing, the ability to come in and precondition their space, make sure that all of their heating and air conditioning systems are working and everything is at their preference before they arrive, is one of those key boutique features that helps keep people engaged. So for all of these different markets, there's different reasons why you would like to go to AIRSTAGE Cloud. At the end of the day, we differentiate Fujitsu. So we are the only people that have an AIRSTAGE Cloud. It's the most complete cloud solution in the industry. We compete very well. We actually exceed our competitors. So if you're out there and you're competing with Mitsubishi or Daikin or LG or anybody else, AIRSTAGE Cloud takes you from being a commodity product and, hey, everybody's VRF is the same, to, hey, the AIRSTAGE solution allows us to do more with our building, allows us to do more with our VRF than we can do with other competitors. Okay. And at the end of the day, that becomes a specification driver. And specifications are important not just for our apply group where they're going out and working with consulting engineers, but it becomes one of these things that once an owner starts using AIRSTAGE Cloud, they want other products, they want more buildings, they want more of their campus to show up on the AIRSTAGE Cloud system. As a matter of fact, we are the only flat spec public entity in the state of Alabama. And the reason that we're a flat spec public entity in the state of Alabama is because we have AIRSTAGE Cloud. So it's a specification that's been driven from a customer that's been very happy. They said the only thing that we want on our campus is Fujitsu AIRSTAGE, and we want it to connect to AIRSTAGE Cloud. So that's something that can happen in every single market out there. Okay, so let's take a deep dive into AIRSTAGE Cloud and look at what AIRSTAGE Cloud is. From a hardware standpoint, the only thing that you have on your job site is this little black box called the Edge Supervisor. And the Edge Supervisor is going to connect to either your VRF system or your mini split system. So if you look over here on the right-hand side, these are all the different devices that connect natively into our AIRSTAGE Cloud system. If you're doing a VRF project where you're using our V series or our J series, that is going to connect to the Edge Supervisor through the pink wire. You just run a pink wire connection into the Edge Supervisor. The Edge Supervisor then sits on the VRF network, and we're going to use that pink wire to be able to monitor all of the data from your VRF systems, both your indoor units and your outdoor units, and to be able to send commands back upstream. If you have an H-Series project and you're doing H-Series mini splits with us, we can control H-Series mini splits all the way back to units manufactured in the year 2020. Those are going to communicate to us through Wi-Fi. So you have your Wi-Fi card that goes inside the indoor units. Those are going to connect to a building's Wi-Fi network. The Edge Supervisor is also going to connect via that access point to the Wi-Fi network, and we're going to be able to communicate with our H-Series units over Wi-Fi. If you happen to have Ventacity HRVs or ERVs on your job site, those will also natively connect through a backnet gateway into our AIRSTAGE Cloud. So we can accommodate all of our Fujitsu products, but what about third-party products? When we go out and we look at a job site, we might have rooftop units, we have outdoor air demands. We can accommodate a lot of that as well. So if you see on the left-hand side, all of these devices on the left-hand side are third-party, non-Fujitsu products that we can integrate into the AIRSTAGE Cloud system. Most importantly are rooftop units. So if you have a thermostatically controlled rooftop unit, so that means say you have a Rheem packaged unit and it has a wall stat sitting inside, we can control that rooftop unit. And the way we do that is we replace the sensor that exists with that rooftop unit with either a Wi-Fi thermostat or with a LoRa thermostat. And once we replace those thermostats, we then have a connection back to the rooftop unit, and we can pull that into AIRSTAGE Cloud, and we can monitor set points and schedules and basic fault options. Notice I said we are connecting by Wi-Fi. So though AIRSTAGE Cloud is a virtual building management system, we are not a BACnet-based system. We are not going to communicate through BACnet. You don't have to make BACnet connections, which is part of the appeal of AIRSTAGE Cloud. It's a simple, easy platform to use. But because of that, we try to make everything configurable and not programmable. We recognize the fact that this system is being installed and set up by contractors. Contractors by nature are not controls engineers. We don't want you to be controls engineers. So the integration is going to be simple and straightforward by using a Wi-Fi stat that manages most of that connection for you, and all you have to do is connect it to the internet. As we're doing energy management, you can connect CT sensors. These happen to be energy harvesting wireless CT sensors that we use. And these CT sensors allow us to get our energy data. And that energy data can be from a rooftop unit, can be from a VRF unit, can be from anything else that you want to monitor energy for. And then if we look at our other wireless sensors that we have wireless thermostats, we have wireless indoor air quality sensors. You can do with us CO2, relative humidity, VOCs, PM 2.5, PM 10. If you have an indoor air quality requirement that you need to handle, there's a good chance we have the ability to do that for you. Moving on into the near future, you're going to see a smart lighting controller. So this is a Dolly interface. If you want to connect to lighting, that will be coming online in the near future, as well as an input-output controller. So this is going to allow us to turn on and off other third-party devices. So say you have a pump or a fan or a switch that you want to be able to control through AIRSTAGE Cloud, we are adding that functionality as well. But at this point today, it's all Fujitsu devices, it's third-party thermostatically controlled rooftop units, it's Fantacity, HRVs, and ERVs, and then a suite of sensors. All right, so with that, I don't see any questions at this point. We're going to hop into AIRSTAGE Cloud right now, and we are going to take a tour of a live AIRSTAGE Cloud site. So the site that we are currently looking at right now is actually one of our distributors that's based in Hawaii. So we are all sitting wherever we are in the country, and we are looking live into our distributor shop on the Big Island of Hawaii right now. So here's their site. And you can see in their site, they have a J-series unit with a couple of indoor units right now that are running in their showroom. We've got that connected into AIRSTAGE Cloud. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go look at our service manager. So the service manager is what's going to allow us as engineers and contractors and technical support people to come in and monitor and control the VRF system. So when I come into my service manager, I can come down, I can see that I've got 2 units right now. They're indoor units. You can see that one is a primary, one's a secondary unit. So the secondary unit's being driven by this top indoor unit. The first value you see is the actual space temperature, which is 75. The middle value is the set point. Because they're blue and you see the snowflake, it's in cooling. So we know at this point that the system is running, our set point is matching our schedule, and it's in cooling. But if we want to come in and we want to take a deep dive, we can come in and we look at our service manager. So any of you that are familiar with our service tool, this should look familiar to you. We've basically taken the service tool, we built it into AIRSTAGE Cloud. But the advantage to this is the service tool is running constantly. So as soon as your site is set up and running, we are collecting data. And I think most of you are aware of this today, that the biggest limitation we have if a customer has a problem, we typically aren't on the job site when a problem exists. So if a problem happens, we don't have the data at the time of failure, unless you happen to be on the job site looking for it with the service tool. With AIRSTAGE Cloud, you have the ability to come in and look at that data anytime you want, because the data exists for you. So if you look at the graphs on the right-hand side, you're looking at a bunch of your different thermistors here, you're looking at your expansion valves, you're looking at your compressor data. This is all the last 4 hours of operation. And you can see that as I drag my cursor along, it's showing you a timestamp and it's showing you what those values are. If you need to go back in time more than 4 hours, you can use the calendar feature. So if I want to see what this was looking like at, say, October 1st at, say, 20 after 2 in the afternoon, I can go in, I can ask AIRSTAGE Cloud for that data. And we might have picked a time where the system wasn't operating. So let's go look at another time. Oh, 10:23, let's go to 10:01. Okay. And you can see in that time period, we went back to our cloud, we're pulling the data, and now we're looking at the data from the 1st of October instead of looking at the data from today. So this is super useful because AIRSTAGE Cloud is going to tell you when there's a problem. And when you get that alert or an alarm that tells you there's a problem, you can come into the service manager and you can immediately dial back to that time where the problem exists. So you can actually watch your system. If your system is going offline or it's throwing a VRF error, you can actually come back and you can watch the exact moment of failure in here. And that data helps you understand what it is you need to do to make a change. We also have the ability to come in and configure the VRF system. So with this remote function settings, you can come in and you can upload and download any of the F2 function settings for the indoor units and the outdoor units on your VRF system. So why is this a big deal? Well, we talked about we want to make your business more efficient. And the way we make the business more efficient is that the contractors and the techs that are out on the job site installing VRF, we want them taking indoor units and outdoor units out of the box. We want them wiring them up. We want them running plumbing. We don't need them to be spending their time going into each of the units, attaching the laptop and doing configuration. And the reason for that now is because we can do that remotely. So what I strongly suggest to customers is that your people in the field who are doing the VRF install, all they do is they do the installation. And then you have a person back at the office that can come in to do the configuration of the system, do the startup of the system, do the troubleshooting of the system. That allows your people that are at the job site to be able to get through the job site faster. And every time you have a refrigeration circuit that gets completed, the people on the job site can text back to the office and say, hey, our refrigeration circuit is done. Then the person in the office can come in just like this. They can go to their remote function settings. They can look at their indoor units and say, all right, well, now it's time to configure, let's say, auto restart. So you can see as soon as I pick my indoor unit, it's grabbing all of the indoor units that happen to be on that network. I can query all of them at the same time by selecting all, or I can come in and grab one individually. So let's see how this one is set up. We can come in and we can actually read that function value. So without leaving my office and getting on a plane to Hawaii right now, I can go query that unit and it's going to tell me what its current state is. And we'll give it one more second here and we'll get the data. All right, came back. We asked it to locate one piece of data for us. It's found it. And it's telling us right now that the current value for that auto restart in this indoor unit is 0. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't tend to memorize all of the function codes. So if I want to find out what that is, I can go down, I can hit the open reference button down at the bottom. The open reference data is going to take me to the service manual, and it's going to tell me that, hey, with my F240 code, a 0 means that auto restart is enabled. So that's fantastic. That's what we want to have, is auto restart enabled. I don't have to write data to it. If I did want to write data to it, I could just come into the right tab and I could turn this into a 1, and that would disable auto restart, but I'm not going to do that to my friends. But if you do it, all you have to do is do write value, hit the button that says write. It sends that information back down. Now, the nice thing is when you're doing these changes through AIRSTAGE Cloud, you do not have to physically be present at the unit to do a power cycle on the unit. When AIRSTAGE Cloud writes values to the indoor units and the outdoor units, it's written in such a way that you do not have to do a power cycle to save that data. So that's our remote function setting. And again, this is one of those things that's going to make life so much easier for you. Back December of last year, I went to see a contractor in Colorado. That contractor, I was showing him this very specific thing with the auto restart. And he said, hey, you know, I wish you were here yesterday, because my day yesterday was spent 7 hours in the truck to drive out to a job site to do an auto restart. I said, man, 7 hours in the truck, huh? How much time were you actually on the job site? He's like, the total time to take the thing off and change the function setting was 7 minutes. And then the contractor looked at the distributor that came with me, and he looked at the distributor and he said, you mean to tell me you've had this software and this is the first time I'm hearing about it? Why is that? And we don't want that to happen, because the contractor immediately understood that an entire day of his life would have been saved if he had AIRSTAGE Cloud on that job site, because he would have been a quick 5-minute operation to change that function setting. You could be changing function settings on 5 different jobs if you have 5 different cloud windows open without having to leave your office. And that's the power of this, is that you can sit at your office, you can make a change. I had an issue with a customer yesterday. They called in a bit of a panic saying their system was down. We looked at AIRSTAGE Cloud. We saw what the error code was. We came back in, we looked at it and said, hey, you've had this problem on October 1st. And the customer said, oh, you know what? I think that's the day somebody was out making some changes. And yeah, they probably knocked a wire loose, and that's why we lost communication. But we can solve these problems without having to go to a job site. Okay. We can also do commissioning remotely. So if you go to the commissioning tab, now you don't have to be on a job to do commissioning. And commissioning is important for 2 reasons. Number one, if you're installing a V-Series VRF system with us, we require you to do commissioning. And that commissioning is required to give you a 10-year warranty. But let's say you have a J-Series job or you have an H-Series job. Why is commissioning important? Well, commissioning becomes important because now you have a report that you can give to your building owner to say that the system is running properly. And most people don't want to do the commissioning because the commissioning takes time. You normally have to be at the job site on weird hours because you're going to drive the building into full heating or full cooling, so you can't do that in the middle of the day. You have to wait until the building is unoccupied. And in the past, it meant you would have to go sit out at the job site with your laptop with a service tool, make sure the service tool stayed connected, your connectivity was there, and manually run the test. With AIRSTAGE Cloud, you can now do all of this virtually. So to do it virtually, you come into commissioning, you say, hey, if I'm a heat pump, I can do a heating test or a cooling test. If I'm heat recovery, you're going to do the heat and cool test. Because we're in Hawaii, we're probably going to do a cool test. So you select that test, you say start test, and as soon as you say proceed with the test, AIRSTAGE Cloud takes control of the system. It's going to run the VRF into, in this case, full cooling, and it's going to start collecting all of the data that our service team needs to be able to verify and issue a 10-year warranty for this job. And what I tell contractors now is that the great thing with AIRSTAGE Cloud is you don't even need your laptop for AIRSTAGE Cloud. You can do this on your phone. And my suggestion to contractors is you wait until 8 o'clock at night, you know everybody's out of the building, you put your kid to bed, you're sitting down to watch a game, you pull up your phone, you load AIRSTAGE Cloud. All you have to do is hit 2 buttons, cooling test and start, and AIRSTAGE Cloud is going to go and run it. You go to bed. In the morning, you wake up, that commissioning is done. You have a commissioning report that you can then give to your end user, and you can either bill the end user for this, or you can use this as a value add in your submission to them to say, hey, we're going to do commissioning of your system. You can see now we also have a commissioning report tab that is live. So this commissioning report is basically the same as your extended warranty report that you had to fill out in the past. So the first page here allows you to fill out all of the information, not only for the site, but you can add contractor information in here, you can add distributor information in here. So now your end user always knows who to call if there's trouble with their system. On the second page, you're going to go and you're going to add all of your pipe length information. So your pipe length information originally comes from Design Simulator. You verified that on the job site. You've written down the exact amount of pipe length that you've used. If you start loading that into AIRSTAGE Cloud, it will do the calculations for you, and it will tell you what your total refrigerant charge is for that job site. Not only will it tell you, it's also going to store it here. And we all know that if you're going out and you're trying to fight a leakage problem with VRF, knowing what your refrigeration charge should be is the most important number you need to have. And in the past, you had to rely on somebody either writing that on the outdoor unit with a Sharpie marker or putting it in a design sim file that you would then have to go and find. With AIRSTAGE Cloud, it's now accessible to you. You know exactly where it is, and you can get that information 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, anywhere on the planet. So we've made commissioning so much easier than it's been in the past that there is now really no excuse to not do commissioning. Even if it's a 1 outdoor unit J-series job, you have the ability to do a commissioning. Your customer can see that, and you can verify to your customer that the system that they paid a lot of money for is working correctly. So that is our service manager. I'm going to look real quick to see if there's any questions. Okay, there's a question for heat recovery systems. Yeah, so for heat recovery, what you need to do for heat recovery is you use the cool and heat test. So this is the acceptable answer. Most of you will do an RBU port test. That RBU port test is coming to AIRSTAGE Cloud. It is not something that is currently running, but it is something that is currently in development so that you will be able to come in and as part of your startup, you can do a branch port test with AIRSTAGE Cloud. All right, so just a couple other quick service related things before we talk about the site manager. We talked about how you make things easy when you're doing startup and how do you detect wiring issues and service issues. So the way we're going to do that is when your site comes online, this device container is going to be empty. But what you do is you come over to this button and you have a VRF scan. When you run the VRF scan, that VRF scan is going to go out on the network and it's going to ask what systems are installed. And once that VRF scan runs, it's going to tell you how many outdoor units it's found, how many branch box units it's found, how many indoor units it's found. You want this data to match your design sim file. If everything matches your design sim file, once you run your VRF scan, and then you can visually see those units, you know that everything has been wired correctly and it's been addressed correctly. If you have an addressing issue and you go to run that VRF scan, it's going to throw an error to you and it's going to say you have an address mismatch. And that's going to tell you that you need to go out and look at your addressing issues. If you have a wiring issue, you're going to start to miss your indoor units or outdoor units. So if I was expecting to see 4 outdoor units on or 4 indoor units on here and I only see 2, I know which 2 I have. I have 0, 0, and I have 0, 1 and 0, 2. Then I know that I need to go and look at units 3 and 4 to see if they're wired correctly. So again, by doing this with every refrigeration circuit, the sooner you do this, the sooner you catch a problem. Because oftentimes if a technician on the job site has wired the first thing incorrectly and they're going to do the same thing over and over, you're going to find that problem cascades through a job. So the larger the job, the more important it is to be able to go in and check that work as the contractors are doing the work. And you don't have to be on the job site to do that anymore. Again, like I said earlier, what I strongly suggest to people is you have your contractor send you a text message, you open up AIRSTAGE Cloud, you can be anywhere in the world to do it, you do your VRF scan, you ensure that it's correct, then you go in and do your programming while the people that are on the job site are installing the next phase of the job. So that is our current service manager. That going to look here to see what other questions we have. So first question, no power cycle requirements for the VRF, or is it the same for AIRSTAGE H? So with AIRSTAGE H, you do not have the amount of remote configuration that you can do with the VRF. So with AIRSTAGE H, you don't have as many of the remote function settings that you can program. So it's really not as much of an issue on the AIRSTAGE H. Okay, and then there was another question on here about a BMS. So no, AIRSTAGE Cloud is not going to connect to a building management system. Okay, if you need to be doing a BMS, so if you already have you're going onto a job site and that job site already has a building management system, you're going to use the NTSys box that we sell to create a backnet gateway. All right, and then that backnet gateway is going to allow the BMS to be able to do set points and schedules. Now, with that said, we have a lot of large customers where they do have a BMS system. So let's say they have a Metasys system or they have a Tritium system. What they find is the BMS is only going to be able to do set points and schedules of the VRF. It's not going to tell you how the VRF is operating. So we have plenty of customers that even though they're talking set points and schedules with a BMS, they still install AIRSTAGE Cloud because they want the ability to do the remote function setting, the commissioning, and the service monitoring of the system. Okay, so let's go look at what an end user sees. So we don't want the end user to see all the VRF technical information. So when you have your end users logging in, you give them permission. Different permissions allow you to see different things. So if you have technician access, you're going to be able to see the VRF data. If you just have user access, you're only going to be able to see the site facilities. So the site facilities is a container on top. This is more of your traditional building management system. And if you're familiar with building management systems, many of them have big floor plan graphics that are put up on the screen and you can go navigate on the floor plan. We intentionally decided not to do that. We intentionally decided not to do that for two reasons. Number one, we want a platform that's easy to use from a mobile device, and that the AIRSTAGE Cloud system is set up so that it is agnostic to the type of device you're using. We want it to work every bit as well on an iPhone as it will on a desktop sitting in an office. So because of that, we have to make everything simple. We also want this to be easy to install, and having to scan floor plans, upload floor plans, drag icons onto a floor plan, all of that stuff is time consuming and difficult, especially if this is something that you're not used to doing. So we want to make it super simple, super easy to do. For that reason, everything on the user interface is very simple. If you want to do this on the phone, you can click this over to a tile mode like this, and then these tiles show up really, really well on a phone. So what do we see when we're in here? Well, right now we can see that we can look at the actual temperature in the space. We can look at what the set point is. We can see that the system isn't cooling. All of the icons down at the bottom are in green. That means we have no errors, and this site is on a schedule. So if we hop into the showroom, okay. So while we've been on here, if you saw when we started, the system was running. That system has now been put into standby mode. So standby mode means everything is running, but everything is working correctly, but the VRF is not actually running. All right. We have comfort thresholds. So if the temperature in the space ever gets above 80 degrees, it's going to send us an alert telling us that the VRF temperature is too high. If that temperature falls below 50, we're going to get an alert to tell us that it's too cold. Okay. If we scroll down further, you see they have a very simple schedule in here where that system is occupied or unoccupied. So since the system was running at set point, it's knocked itself into standby for the moment, but it's doing exactly what we want it to do. Okay, and how do we know what the schedule looks like? Well, we come down here and we can see that they've got their set point set to 75, the system is on, and that's their unoccupied. And when the system is occupied, they want it to be running at 73 degrees. Okay. You can make these schedules as simple or as complicated as you want them to be. We have some customers where their schedule is going to include VRF systems, rooftop systems, ERV systems. If you have an ERV on the site, you can add the ERV to any of these schedules. You can either run it concurrently with your VRF, or you can add it as a separate schedule item. So we have a number of customers that do that, and they use their ERV for pre-cooling before they want the VRF to turn on. And then the VRF runs, and then when the VRF becomes unoccupied, they turn the ERV back on again. So there's multiple different ways that you can configure these schedules. Lots of our customers will have a heating schedule and a cooling schedule, and then they'll just adjust the dates when they need to make the changeover on any given time from heating to cooling. But scheduling is very simple. Scheduling is very straightforward in AIRSTAGE Cloud. Just like anything in our ecosphere, it's last command in. So that's why you have this commanded to go unoccupied at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and go occupied again at 6 a.m. in the morning. Now, if you have somebody in a zone and that person in the zone uses their room controller, that will override the schedule. So if the space is occupied right now and it's occupied to 73 degrees, if they go to the room sensor or they come up here and they change that temperature to 78 degrees, it's going to stay at 78 till you get to the next scheduled event. That's no different than it would be if you were using our central controller or our room controller. You do have the ability to locally override this. That's also important if you ever lose internet access. So if you ever lose internet access on a job site, the VRF or your mini split system is going to continue to run. And it's going to continue to run even on that schedule because the schedule is embedded locally into the edge supervisor. So if you happen to lose internet for 2 days, your building is still going to run. You are not in a position where your VRF is suddenly going to turn off and be inaccessible to the user if you have an internet failure. Okay, so this is what we have today. We talked about having third-party devices to come in and do energy management. So I'm going to show you what that's going to look like. The energy management is a feature that's going to come out here before the end of this calendar year. And it's going to be in part of this package that we call Insights. And Insights is going to allow you to come into your building and you're going to be able to run reports based on indoor air comfort, indoor air quality, energy usage, as well as being able to understand how your system is performing and how quickly people are responding to your system. So when we look at what you're going to get in these insights, the first one that you're looking at is a temperature insight. So this is looking every day for a month, and it's looking to see how the actual temperature in the space matches up with the set point temperature of the space. And ideally, we want our set points and our space temps to be equivalent. If we ever get to a position like this where we have the space temp that's wildly different from our set point, we know that there's a problem there. You can track that on a day-to-day by month basis, or you can look at it over a yearly basis. Okay. In addition to temperature, if you have a humidity sensor built in, you can track the relative humidity in the space. If you go to the IAQ page and you have a CO2 sensor, you're going to be able to track your CO2 levels in a space, your VOCs if you have that in there, your PM 2.5 and your PM 10. So if you do run into a job where you have an air acuity spec for indoor air quality, there's a very good chance we're going to be able to meet some of those specs using AIRSTAGE Cloud with these insights. Okay. Now, when we talk about energy consumption looks a little bit different. So we want our energy consumption to look just like your energy bill at home. But in order to make good use of the energy information, we do need to have some data. So as long as we have the square footage of the building, right, we can look at energy use intensity. Energy use intensity is important because it's a way to take building size out of the equation. So if you're using any energy use intensity calculator, you can go on the internet, you can look at other buildings of your class, and you can see how your energy consumption matches up to other buildings that happen to be in your geography or in the square footage class of your space. But most importantly for us, we want to actually be in there to look at daily energy use. We want to see how much energy we're consuming either in the building or a zone. So this graphic should look familiar to you if you pay your energy bills. It's showing you your daily energy consumption, and it's also overlaying a line on here for the average outdoor air temperature. Now, that average outdoor air temperature does not require you to add an additional sensor to your job. We're pulling that outdoor air temperature from the outdoor air temperature sensor that's already built into the outdoor unit. So as long as you have the energy management CTs, those are pulling the data. We're going to get the outdoor temperature sensor data, and we're going to be able to give you this information so that you get a basic energy bill for your facility. If you add your energy rate in there as well, you can then look at this, and you can look at this in relation to your day-to-day operating costs. Okay. So now you can actually come in and you can see how much it's costing you to run your building. Now, let's say you've got a customer and you're trying to convince that customer to go to VRF, and they currently have a building full of rooftop units. AIRSTAGE Cloud is super useful because we talked earlier about being able to control and monitor rooftop units. So you can go in, you can put rooftop controls on, you can add CT sensors to the rooftop unit, and you can start trending energy costs. And then when you replace the VRF, you move those CT sensors over to your VRF system, and then you can actually show your customer based on graphics how much energy they're saving. Okay. Now, one important thing to keep in mind here, this is not a tenant billing system. So we do not want this system to be generating individual utility bills for multi-tenant residential. This tool is designed to give a facility administrator a pretty good idea of what's going on in the building and to use this as a diagnostic tool. If you have a site where you need energy billing and you need tenant billing or energy apportionment, there are plenty of third-party companies that do really good jobs of that, and they already have that program built out. We as AIRSTAGE Cloud don't want to compete with them, so what we can do is we do an electronic data transfer, which is called an API. So if you have a third-party energy management program that your site is already using, and you want to be able to take that data from AIRSTAGE Cloud and deliver it to the system, it's very easy for us to write a cloud-to-cloud API that's going to send the data to the third-party system. So you don't have to put in two sets of hardware. But as AIRSTAGE Cloud, we do not want to be in the individual energy apportionment business. We do want to be able to do diagnostic work. All right. Now, a couple of other things on here that are super useful to look at. One of them is called device uptime. So when we start looking at this from a service standpoint and we want to sell service contracts, we need to be able to provide accurate information to the building owner so that the building owner understands that we are taking care of their building. And if we're taking care of it remotely, we want them to understand that problems are being resolved, things are happening, and they're getting a value for that money that they're spending in their service contract, even if they don't see a contractor truck parked in their parking lot every day. So how do we do that? Well, we use the uptime analytics. So the uptime analytics are going to tell us the percentage of time that that particular unit is running. And you can see that we have the actual runtime is the light colored, and then we also break it down by the amount of time that the thing is in standby. And again, I've had plenty of service calls where I have an end user calling saying, hey, the air conditioning isn't working. And I go into AIRSTAGE Cloud and I say, hey, you know, it's in standby, right? And they're like, no. So being able to monitor the amount of time that's in standby is very important on there. So we want to see full bars on there, and then you can use the standby time as you need it. Now, the first graph that you get is total device uptime. So that's the entire building. So that includes VRF, that includes split systems, rooftop units, ERVs, any HVAC device you have connected to AIRSTAGE Cloud. As you scroll down, you can then break this down by a device class. So if you just want to look at your VRF systems, if you just want to look at your rooftop systems, if you just want to look at your ERVs or your mini splits, you can come in and you can grab these graphs. And all of these graphs, all of this information that I'm showing you is exportable. So you can either print it out as a PDF, or if you want to do a really deep dive and do custom data management with it, you can pull all of the data as a CSV file. The last piece of information in here, again, is for contractors that are doing service contracts. This allows you to look at how healthy your building is. And when we talk about how healthy your building is, we're really talking about, how are you responding to alerts and issues on a job site? So the first graph is going to go and it's going to log the total amount of active alerts at the end of every business day. So ideally, we don't have 16, 17 alerts every day. We want that to be 0. But this does allow you to track how many alerts and alarms you have in your system. Okay. The next graph is going to show you the time to respond. So when an alert gets generated, it's going to send it to the designated contractor or service people, either through an email or a text message. That contractor then has the ability to acknowledge the alarm. Once you acknowledge the alarm, that's what's being traced in the response time. So an acknowledgement tells other service people as well as the building owner that somebody has seen the problem, who is going to be responding to that problem and when, and that's our response time. The resolution time is when we clear that alarm. So once that alarm gets cleared, we track that time as well. So now as a contractor, you can run these building reports and you can tell your building manager that, hey, you know what, in the month of April, we had 14 service calls. The average time to resolve those was 2.5 hours. And that helps you justify your building services contract. All right, we are just about done here. Have a few more things that we need to get to, then we're going to go through our last bit of questions. And this was actually a question that popped up is, hey, AIRSTAGE Cloud is great. What does it cost? So there is a cost to AIRSTAGE Cloud. It is a subscription. I am not going to get into exact costs, and the reason for that is your distributor can give you pricing for this. When you go to your distributor, you have a number of different options available to you. So if you have a new site that you're including into AIRSTAGE Cloud, you're going to need that Edge Supervisor. That Edge Supervisor black box is going to control up to about 128 to 140 indoor units that are on the pink wire. If it's a Wi-Fi system, we can connect up to 200. So if you have a large site where you have 350, 400 indoor units, then you're probably going to have 3 Edge Supervisors on that job site. Each one of those gets a subscription. So your new subscription offers very similar to buying a cell phone. You walk in where you get your hardware and you get a service contract. For us, you have a 1-year option, a 2-year option, a 3-year option, and a 5-year option. So the multi-year options are in there because it's a whole lot easier to secure the funding for this stuff when you're doing the CapEx for the equipment than it is to come back and look for budget every year on an OpEx standpoint. So if you can get a multi-year subscription into the CapEx when you purchase your VRF system, you do have the option to do that. We have lots of customers that take advantage of the 2-year, 3-year, and 5 years just for that reason. After your new initial subscription runs out, there will be a renewal. That renewal happens on a yearly basis. And you can talk to your current distributor. If you are a distributor, go talk to your SE if you don't have the pricing for this. All right. This product has been out in the market. 2025 has been a pretty good year for us. One of the things that was very exciting for us in the middle of the year, we won the bronze medal in the controls category from Consulting Specifying Engineer magazine. this is a pretty important award for us because this is not one of these typical marketing awards where the greater donation you give to the organization, the more votes you win. This is a peer-reviewed, and the only people that can vote on this are consulting engineers. So it's a peer-reviewed product. It's completely independent from any marketing contributions we make to the organization. So it's a pretty good indication for us that we're on the right track. So we won the bronze medal this year from our consulting specifying engineer friends. We've been running a couple of ad campaigns specifically for AIRSTAGE Cloud. If you came to AHR in the spring, you saw our gigantic giraffe. In the fall, we are running the elephant campaign. But all of these are showing up. They're in the ASHRAE Journal. They're in Engineered Systems magazines. They're in all of the other trade publications that are out there right now. So we are advertising AIRSTAGE Cloud. It is something that end users, consulting engineers, people in the industry are seeing these ads for, which makes it a great time to be going out and talking about this. If you want more information right away, I suggest you to scan that QR code that's in the middle of your screen right now. That is going to take you to our airstagecloud.com website. Airstagecloud.com is a separate website from the rest of the Fujitsu AirStage, solely devoted to AirStage Cloud. It will get you to different marketing personas. It will also get you to our YouTube page. And our YouTube page has a series of instructional videos. You'll find that we don't have a product instructions, but we do have a whole series of YouTube videos. So with that, we are getting to the bottom of the hour here, and we're going to look at some questions. So let's see what questions have come in. Okay, so we talked about connecting to a BMS. Again, we're not connecting to a BMS through AIRSTAGE Cloud. Does AIRSTAGE Cloud replace the service tool? That's a good question, and the answer to that is it depends. So it's still, if you are a TSA, there is still value in having a service tool because sometimes you might be on a rooftop and you don't have access to anything else and you need your service tool. But if for your typical job site, in the past, you would have been offering a central controller and service tool. If you're offering AIRSTAGE Cloud, the AIRSTAGE Cloud is going to take the place of the central controller and the service tools on the job site. So for the vast majority of your customers, the answer is going to be yes, the AIRSTAGE Cloud is going to replace the service tool on a job site. And the added advantage to AIRSTAGE Cloud is it's not a dongle, so it's very unlikely for you to lose AIRSTAGE Cloud. But if you've ever lost your service tool dongle, you know what a problem that can be. All right, next question. Do you have a list of certified technicians per specific location? Not entirely sure what that means, but we have been doing training with our TSAs. So if you have a local Fujitsu TSA and they've been to our TSA trainings, then yes, we have been doing training with our TSAs. If you call into service in Pine Brook as well, they are familiar with AIRSTAGE Cloud. And if you come to our trainings, we're beginning to incorporate AIRSTAGE Cloud into our trainings. Okay. Another question here. In order to access the unit, is a fixed IP address required? The answer to that is no. We do everything through DHCP. When you get the AIRSTAGE Cloud Edge Supervisor, there's a quick start guide that comes with it that will walk you through the setup process. But unlike the central controller, you don't have to access and obtain a static IP address to make this work. All right. Let's see. Remote commissioning, able to perform the RVU test. Not currently, but that is something that is coming. And I think that's all of the questions. All right, so with that, we've hit the top of the hour. This has been recorded. The recording will come out to you. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Appreciate you coming out. If you want to learn more about AIRSTAGE Cloud, please go to your Fujitsu sales engineers, and they can get you in touch with me. If you want to do live demos, we can do demos. We can do virtual demos. Anything else you need, we are here for. But thank you very much for attending, and enjoy the rest of your day.